Description is another one of the 5 modes. Description involves describing, so you're describing the world of the story, the characters, etc. Description usually connects to the 5 senses: sight, touch, hearing, smell, and taste. So you want to figure out how you can bring your story to life for the reader with good description. Let's look at some more information about description. And these again are from Cult of Pedagogy. So here's a description from the story about the frog. A frog. He was a brownish gray color and bumpy. At first, I thought he might be a leaf, but I didn't remember seeing a leaf on my way back. When I took a step closer and got a better look, I was sure. He was tiny, no bigger than the little handheld pencil sharpener I kept in my backpack, but he was definitely a frog. So you see description of color, texture, comparing to another object that the frog looked like, size, comparing it again to another object. So what to describe? Relevant details, things that really matter in the story. So don't get carried away and just start describing everything if it doesn't bring the story forward in some way. So irrelevant would be describing the girl because the story is really about the frog. It's actually titled The Frog, and so they're focusing on that. When to describe. Add description in the parts of a story when a character would notice that thing. So, for example, they were noticing the frog, so they described the frog. How to describe. Sensory details. Sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Sight. He was a brownish gray color and bumpy, no bigger than a little handheld pencil sharpener I kept in my backpack. Taste and touch. The bread was still hot from the oven. The salty taste of butter flooded my mouth as I sunk my teeth in. Sound and touch. Every now and then, the boom boom of a passing car stereo would make the glasses in our kitchen cabinets rattle. You can really feel that, like you're in that room when you hear that. Smell. Hours after she hugged me, the smell of cigarette smoke and perfume stuck to my clothes. Again, I read that and I can imagine it. I can almost smell it myself. How to describe. So sensory details. You don't need to use all the senses all the time, though. Again, this is a balance. If you say too much, the reader might get bored or overwhelmed and unable to track everything you're telling them. So stick to the things that really connect with what you're trying to say. Similes and metaphors. So you're comparing two things that are not usually connected. Simile is using like or as. You can pause if you'd like to read this one. And a metaphor doesn't use like or as, but is still comparing two things. So here they're saying, they're calling him a little green buffalo wing, comparing, I think, the frog still to the little green buffalo wing, even though he's not a buffalo wing, and not using the words like or as. Here it says like a buffalo wing. So that would be a simile. Personification is another way to describe, using human characteristics to describe a non-living thing. The waves reached out and pulled us in. So it's acting like the waves are like a person reaching out and grabbing you, but of course, the waves are not a person. Interpretation is another way how a character understands or interprets something. They gave each other that look, the look that said, "What do you think?" And then the other one said, "I don't know. What do you think?" And so that's giving you an idea of what the characters are thinking. Showing versus telling. So in writing, they often say show, don't tell. Telling would be saying she was angry. Showing would be saying she slammed the door so hard it shook the whole house. So you're using more description in that second example. You could also show and tell. Showing only is the part about the passing car we heard earlier. And then if you added, and every time I prayed it would stop at our house, then I would know my brother was finally home. So you're telling sort of the significance of that sensory detail. So now go to your story and find places where you can add description, add sensory details, a metaphor, a simile, some personification, or an interpretation. Put most of the description in places where the characters would notice those things. That'll give a sense of realism, of the real experience for the reader. Remove description that isn't relevant. If you note if you've gone into detail about the wallpaper somewhere and the wallpaper really isn't important to the story, perhaps take that out. Find places that need more showing or more telling and decide what works best. This might be a time to show a passage to a friend and have them give you their opinion. Are you describing enough? Are you describing too much? Etc. Are they able to picture what you're saying? Good luck.